Okay, I'm finishing up some things on this motor. This is the 2332. So I just wanted to go around some of the features. I'm almost done with this and ready to kind of lower it down and test it in the bus. I have a couple of things left I have to do. But wanted to just show some of the features of this. So I've got my dual 44 Weber IDF 44s here and here, and what I did is I've set up the little extenders here. I got the linkage done. I put in, this is my little custom spring job, and I had to squish this one down as opposed to this one, which is left normal, because the spring, this one was not tensioned and this one was. So now they're both equally, and the linkage just works really nicely now. So I can't put this throttle tube in yet. The roller throttle tube is this guy here, and that'll go in there as soon as it's off the stand. Okay, so that's the carbs. Then also on the carbs, I have done my hard line. This is from the air-cooled kit. You know, the hard line comes around here. I had to cut and flare this. It has a gauge, which looks pretty nice from the front. You know, you get your 2 or 3 pounds of fuel pressure, so you can just make sure you're getting fuel pressure all the time. That comes across the back here. It's floating here, in other words, it's not attached to anything. And then it comes to the T, where it comes down to this, which is a double nut output, and that, not output, that's where it goes in actually, but that is going to connect to this. So you can see the hole is right there, and it's roughly in the right spot, but I might have to trim this little down piece in order to get that to line up exactly. So I don't want to trim it beforehand, because if I make it too short, then I'm screwed. So then what I have done here is, you can see the heater boxes. So I've hooked up the heater boxes, and I cut off the extra tab here because this thing is really annoying. This thing is really annoying in that when you slide the motor in, this thing used to stick up about 2 inches, and this hooks on stuff. I've tried to put in a motor, and I'm like, what's hooking? What's hooking? Well, it's this guy. So I cut that one off, and I cut this one off, and just kind of filed it down. Then what I've done is, down here, I have the return spring. So what I did is I made 2 little spring anchors, put them through my tins, and I have this return spring, so that when I pull on the heater tube, it'll definitely return to the closed position. I've had it where you feel like you're trying to close it, but it never fully closes. There's always heat coming out, and that's on my other engine, so I decided I wanted to have an actual springier spring, and here's this one as well. Interesting thing is, this lever is further from the tin than this one, so I had to use a slightly longer anchor. It's kind of just a homemade anchor where I drilled a hole into a bolt and feed the spring through. So that's my heater box setup. I have the Kennedy Stage 2 clutch here with that, I can't remember exactly which plate it is, but it's one of those ones. It's not the copper one, but it's one that's a anti-slip clutch plate, so that should be great. Again, I have to wait for this final front engine tin. I have my spark plug wires coming in. I had done that incorrectly, because the 2 short ones need to come over to the 3/4 side, and the 2 long ones go to the 1/2 side. But I had made the 2 long wires go to the back cylinders, and that didn't work very well. Let's see what else. I have my fuel block off with my, this is a Bosch Brazilian coil, so it's a 3 ohm Bosch Brazilian coil. The flamethrower, electronic ignition. I have my, that's my oil pressure sensor. I've already got my, it's a 90 amp alternator, and I have my fan belt already on there and tensioned. I have my sort of billet pulley here that has my my hash marks for the timing, so that's good. Now down here, this is interesting. I've got my CSP Python exhaust, and this exhaust, it has these firmer steel things for underneath, which is good. I had a slight issue where I shortened this one, and then I almost made it too short. I barely got away with it, but I tightened this way down, and it's only got kind of like about a 1.5 centimeters or so of overlap there, but it's really tightened down. Comes up here to these. I had to do something interesting because this was a 50 millimeter on the CSP tube, but this is a 47 millimeter. So what I actually did is I used a 50 millimeter tube here, but I wrapped these with what is basically heating duct tape like this, 3M tape, so that's heat resistant, and I wrapped it around like maybe 3 or 4 times here so that this would clamp down really well, which it does. So it clamps well here, clamps well here. I got my grommet underneath that, and that's a nice grommet for a nice seal. Here's my grommet for my oil breather line, which is going to come down and go under here and connect. So I was just testing what the angle would be. This is a fuel line, but the breather line will come down here on both sides, and it'll hook in to this here. And I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to, you know, basically kink the breather tube, which it already almost is on my other motor. But you know, I had gotten something to solve that, which was these 45-degree angle fittings, and this actually screws nicely right on top of this, and I was gonna try to get this to kind of meet up nicely with that, but I just can't get the angle to work quite right. So for now, I'm gonna leave that off. Let's see, what else? You look down here, I don't have the sump yet. It's getting shipped, so I will put on a 2-quart sump under here. And yeah, I got all my engine tins in. You look at the underside of the you know, heater boxes and this header. This is a 42 millimeter CSP Python, and I have the muffler here for it, which is the hideaway. It looks like this. Let's see. Get this camera so that I can. So CSP looks very nice. Let's see. Oh, that's very interesting actually to look inside of this merge header. See, look in there. These are the 4 tubes coming together, and then they merge, and it has a little point there, which is pretty interesting. So then I have the kit for all the gaskets and everything to go in between here. Oh, and this guy goes like this. So it's going to go like this, and then it's going to hook in up here. However, whatever that hooks to, and the hook right there. So that's all going to be very interesting to see how it sounds like this muffler with the straight cut cam gear, and the fact that it's a 2332 should produce a good sound. Let's see. Other than that, you know, I have my oil fill with a breather line, and that's pretty much the entire motor. I have, you know, jetted the carbs. I think I've got everything here with no, you know, hopefully no intake leaks. I've done my valves, the 1.4 rockers on a FK42 cam inside, and I adjusted the valves with lash caps, and I said 1.4 ratio rockers, and they have the 6 thousandths lash, and I've tightened down all my exhaust. Just have to go through my checklist. I don't have any oil in this yet. I'm waiting for the sump to arrive from SCAT. So my last couple of steps are to install the sump underneath, fill it with oil. I'm going to test the hard line here. I've ordered a fuel pump for like 10 bucks, and so I'm going to just run fuel from a from a gas can using it's like a 3 or 4 pound of pressure. I'm going to pump it into here, and I'm just going to examine very closely, make sure no fuel leaks at this whole line, because if I get this in the bus and this is behind, this is behind there, once it's in there, if there's a little leak dripping down or something like that, I'll never find it, and it'll just, I'll probably smell it. I'd have to take the engine out. So I'm gonna do a test run of pumping gas. That'll fill the carb bowls. So they'll be full when I'm putting the engine in the car, unless I drain them out or it evaporates. So that's pretty much it. This motor is almost ready to roll, and I have my starter sort of trigger kit, and so I'm going to do a video of the first start and running this motor for the 20-minute break-in. And man, I hope it works. This has been a lot of effort. So, but it's going to replace on this bus. It's going to replace the motor here, which is the 1968. And I just have some things on this motor. This has dual 40 carbs instead of 44s. But there's some things that I want to fix on this motor. Like, for example, this. It leaks oil out the valve covers, and I could be coming out the main seal. I'm not sure. So I want to pull this off. I've got another Kennedy stage 1 clutch that I'm going to... sorry, I have Kennedy stage 1 on both. But the heads on this are stage 2 heads, so everybody calls it stage 1, stage 2. Anyway, I want to fix this motor, which is running great, but it leaks some oil. And there are just a few ways that I want to fix it up and possibly put this motor into a Beetle. I'm looking for a convertible Beetle 67 or before with no motor that's a good roller, and I want to just patch it up and put this motor in it. I think it'll run great. This motor has got plenty of power, even for the bus, so in a Beetle it would be really speedy. So that will go in there. So this is the motor. All right.